Some hurts are not easy to release. There are wounds that do not disappear just because time passes. A sentence someone said, a betrayal you did not expect, a relationship that changed, a loss that left a mark, a moment you replay more often than you want to admit. And sometimes, holding on feels understandable. It can feel like protection, it can feel like control, it can feel like the only way to make sure the pain mattered. But over time, the weight of unforgiveness can become heavy in quiet ways. It can shape our thoughts, tighten our hearts, and follow us into places where we once felt peace. Jesus speaks directly to this in the parable of the unmerciful servant, found in Matthew 18. The story begins with a servant who owes his king an impossible debt. It is not simply a large amount, it is more than he could ever repay. No amount of effort, time, or good intentions could settle what he owed. The servant begs for patience, but the king gives him something greater than patience. He gives mercy. The debt is canceled, completely, freely. The servant walks away from a burden he could never have removed on his own. It is a picture of grace, not grace earned, not grace negotiated, not grace slowly paid back over time. Grace given because the heart of the king was merciful. But then the story turns. That same servant, freshly forgiven of an impossible debt, finds someone who owes him far less. The debt is real. It is not imaginary. It matters. But compared with what he had just been forgiven, it is small. And instead of showing mercy, he demands repayment. He grabs hold of the other man. He refuses compassion. He forgets what it felt like to be released. This is where the parable becomes uncomfortable, because it asks us to look honestly at the debts we keep holding over other people. The apology that never came. The damage that was never acknowledged. The years that cannot be returned. The words that still echo. The trust that was broken. Jesus is not pretending those things do not matter. Forgiveness does not mean pretending it did not hurt. It does not mean calling something good that was wrong. It does not mean minimizing the wound or rushing past the grief. God is never asking us to lie about pain. Forgiveness does not mean removing boundaries. There are times when wisdom requires distance. There are times when trust has to be rebuilt slowly, if it can be rebuilt at all. Forgiveness and access are not always the same thing. Forgiveness does not always mean immediate reconciliation. Reconciliation requires repentance, honesty, safety, and the willingness of more than one person. Forgiveness may begin in your heart long before a relationship is restored. And forgiveness may begin as a repeated prayer before it feels like peace. Sometimes it is not one dramatic moment where everything inside us instantly changes. Sometimes it is a quiet sentence, whispered again and again. God, I still hurt, but I release this to you again. That may be the beginning. Not because the pain was small, not because what happened was acceptable, but because resentment is too heavy to carry forever. Unforgiveness feels like we are holding someone else captive, but over time, we may discover we are the one living in the prison. That is one of the quiet dangers Jesus exposes. We can believe that holding on gives us power, but slowly it begins to take from us. It takes our peace. It takes our softness. It takes our ability to receive joy without the old wound interrupting. The person who hurt us may not even know how often we still carry the weight. But God knows. And God does not look at that weight with impatience. He sees the whole story. He sees what happened. He sees what it cost. He sees the part of you that wants to be free, but does not know how to let go. That is why forgiveness is not simply an act of willpower. It is something we bring to God. We ask Him to help us release what we cannot release alone. We ask Him to loosen what has tightened in us. We ask Him to teach us mercy without denying justice, compassion without losing wisdom, and freedom without pretending the past did not matter. The servant in the parable forgot the mercy he had received, and when he forgot mercy, he became unable to give it. So perhaps part of forgiveness begins with remembering the patience God has shown us, remembering the grace that has carried us, remembering that we, too, have needed mercy more than once. This does not erase what others have done, but it changes the posture of our hearts. We stop asking resentment to protect us. We stop asking bitterness to heal us. We stop carrying a debt that only God is strong enough to hold. This week, the practice is simple. When the memory returns, when the anger rises, when the old conversation begins again in your mind, pause for a moment and pray, God, I still hurt, but I release this to you again. Not because it is easy, not because it is finished, but because you do not have to carry it alone. Let that prayer become a small doorway toward freedom. Mercy does not make the wound meaningless. It places the wound in the hands of a God who knows how to heal what bitterness cannot. And maybe, slowly, the grip begins to loosen. Maybe peace begins to return in small ways. Maybe your heart begins to rest again. You're not weak for needing time. You're not failing because forgiveness feels difficult. You're simply human, bringing your pain to a merciful God. May the mercy you have received become the mercy that sets you free. May God help you release what your heart was never meant to carry alone. And may His peace meet you gently, even here, even now.